With that said, let me introduce my first guest for this hour as we talk about office safety and how to deal with office hazards. Now, I think it's a fair statement to say already in Kenya, we don't pay that much attention to safety, hazard warnings, emergency warnings. A lot of you, maybe even in your workplaces, you don't know where the emergency exit is, you don't know where the emergency meeting point is, and it's very, very important to know. Why? Because safety and health hazards also still do exist within the office space. You spend a lot of time there, sometimes 7-8 hours, if not more, a day. And so as a lot of you shift maybe jobs, move into new offices, or restructure even in your remaining business, how are you ensuring that your office environment is safe, secure, and without hazard? Here with me is Stephen Boyo, who's a security officer with the Kenya Red Cross. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
All right, so obviously we spend a lot of time in our offices, approximately a third of our day in the office space. What would be the basics about just maintaining safety in the workplace?
The basics of maintaining safety is just to understand the environment which you're working in terms of the hazards that are likely to impede on your safety at your workplace. For example, the physical layout, basics like physical layout of your office. Is it in an orderly manner, or it has been? What is the order of you entering and leaving your offices? Basic things like how do you arrange your computers, cables, wires in place, and eliminating possible hazards like at maybe your workstation. How have you arranged the equipment in your offices?
Yeah.
Those are the things that we need to look like in order for us to prevent preventable injuries or illnesses at our workplaces.
Okay.
Yes.
How is the layout of furniture a hazard?
Yeah, of course, from the way you enter, from your desk, how you leave your desk. Are there any obstacles around your working places? Like, for example, cables. How are cables laid in your place? They can make you fall down and get injured. Some cables are loose connections that may cause fire. That incidents, yes.
Okay.
The other thing is about the practices. How do we at your workstation, how do you handle issues like eating? Eating at our workplaces is something that is very common, and if it's not well managed, it can invite rodents to your place, and rodents have caused major problems, like eating over. They can eat wires, and then which cause short circuiting and cause fires, or even blow up of your computers or electrical equipment around your workplace.
Right.
Yes.
And let's talk then about what I was mentioning in the teaser to this discussion about, say, emergency exits, fire hazards, things those drills that we often take for granted. And you hear like a alarm ringing, people just want to continue working, they don't bother to get up and move as they're supposed to. Talk to us about those, because those can end up being very serious tragedies if not taken seriously.
Yes, I said about the practices. Of course, the employer has done the best he can ensure that we have those safety infrastructure in place. For instance, as you have said, the emergency exits, the alarm systems, and firefighting equipment. As an employee, it's a must that you must know how to exit in case of any eventuality from your workplace. Like we're in this studio, in case of any fire, how do we exit to a safer location or to the next fire assembly? If you can fight that fire, how can you fight it? Which equipment are you going to use? If you cannot fight, how to evacuate from this particular place? But it's very important that we learn to use the basic infrastructure, safety infrastructure in place to ensure our safety place.
Yeah.
If it is not adhered to, some of the basic instructions are displayed on the wall, but we take it for granted, not going through them and even practicing them at the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for offices that have, like, say, a kitchenette, which is becoming quite common nowadays,
Yes.
what are some of the measures then to take safety precautions for within such spaces? Because now there's different people using the equipment there. There's electrical equipment. I don't know if many offices are doing stoves necessarily, but certainly there's a whole lot of different electrical equipment that could certainly short circuit, for example,
Yes.
within an office space.
Okay, within the office space, we need to practice proper housekeeping procedures. First is to ensure that every item is in its correct place. Now, on kitchenettes, we need to have a basic firefighting equipment, or detection and firefighting. Like, do we have a smoke detector? When there is a smoke, it indicates that there is some fire somewhere, or fire is likely to erupt from that place. And in case of such incidents, how do you combat that fire before it spreads into the wider office? Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Then what should be, for those who maybe are not even aware of what their safety practices are within the offices, what are the basics about what to do in case of an emergency?
Yeah, in case of an emergency, the best practice is you to find is your safety first. You to find the nearest emergency exit, and you exit from that area where there is an incident. Most people will rush to go and get their valuables, their car keys, which sometimes is very dangerous for themselves. So the best thing is for you to evacuate from that particular environment.
Whatever umeacha uache tu.
Wache nayo. Don't come back to look for, like, you have a particular item,
Your
which is
favorite
very
handbag.
you just bought your. Whenever there's an alarm, once you have exited, just exit. Your safety is more important than that particular item.
Okay.
Yes.
Should there be anything said about safety as far as customers are concerned? Just because sometimes you never know what sort of personality walks into your space, right? And
Yes.
it's not like, especially when you have a client, you may not necessarily be doing a security search on them. I mean, hopefully if you're in a building, they do security searches. But are there ways to sort of almost guarantee or have security measures in the face of maybe a difficult or an unruly client?
Okay. Well, when it comes to security, we cannot just look from that inner perspective of the office. We have to look from the wider perspective. How does the customer or that visitor or client gains access into the office? Of course, they need to have those basic security measures. First, they ask whom they are going to visit. The host has to give authority or permission for that person to be given the access to the office. And then the other thing is that he has to identify himself. Who is that person and what's the purpose? Is it official or personal issues?
Yeah.
And then now, if that person becomes unruly, the security persons or you, the host, has a right to deny that person access to your office.
Right.
Because if you allow the unruly person to your office, it jeopardizes on your safety and security.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then it does sound that there's at least some measure of training that either staff or select people within the office should undergo as far as safety is concerned.
Yes, it is very paramount that staff are trained on basic safety and security, because at the moment is that security cannot just be left alone to security guards or even soldiers at the main gate or even at the entrance. It's a wholesome process involving the infrastructure, the personnel, and the systems in place. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for coming through to the show today. Certainly, I hope whichever space you're working in, especially if you're one who's in management, these are things that you should be thinking about and ensuring that you already have in place in your policies, your procedures, safety measures for your staff members, and even for your clients What are your emergency exits? Do you have your fire extinguishers up to date? Do you have fire marshals within your staff? Does your team even know what to do and where to go? Very, very important. As we say always, prevention is better than cure. And so certainly it's better to be informed beforehand so that in the face of some sort of emergency, you have a better chance of getting out well.
Yeah, what I can say that most employers have complied with this regulation of occupational health and safety. Our biggest challenge is the employees or the staff working within that area.
Yeah.
This is a security infrastructure that somebody has to identify himself before he goes in.
Yeah.
Like name tag, basic things like name tags you're issued with, which you're supposed to display while on your official duties at the office space. But somebody negligently leaves that or breaches the security system in that particular place for maybe because she or he feels that it is inconveniencing him or is wasting time.
Yeah.
So all employees need to adhere to all the safety and security procedures.
Right.
Even if being searched at the gate, it may be very awkward.
Yeah.
Or maybe somebody may think is being suspected, but it is for the entire for the goodness of the entire organization.
Right, yourself and your organization.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you again, Stephen, for your time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to take a short break now and be back in just a bit with even more Full Circle with Joyce. Stay tuned.